There are 3 names carved into the beam of an Alp hut that no herder has slept in for generations, and depending on which valley tells the story, only one of those 3 men ever came down the mountain again. This is the story he was said to have told, in pieces, to anyone patient enough to listen. The story of the season 3 men spent so far from other people that they forgot what harm actually costs. High pastures in the Alps have always demanded a strange kind of endurance. For months at a time, herdsmen lived apart from villages, apart from families, apart from anything resembling company, tending cattle on slopes so remote that a bad storm could cut them off from the world entirely. Solitude like that has a way of working on a person slowly, the way water works on stone. You don't notice the shape changing until it's already changed, and somewhere in the depths of one particularly long, particularly silent season, 3 men decided they had had enough of being alone. They built her out of what the Alp gave them: straw for a body, bundled and shaped the way a person shapes a memory of someone they miss, carved wood for the places straw couldn't hold its form, scraps of worn cloth, old garments nobody needed anymore, wrapped around her the way you'd dress someone you actually cared about. Except they didn't, not really, not yet. They called her into being the way lonely men have always called things into being, half as a joke, half out of a need too large to say out loud, and entirely without asking what it might mean if the joke stopped being a joke. And then, one night that none of the 3 ever described the same way twice, she moved. Some of the old tellers blame magic older than the mountains, spirits that answer wishes made in isolation, because isolation is its own kind of prayer. Others say it was simpler and stranger than that wanting something badly enough, for long enough, in a place empty enough, is sometimes all it takes. Whatever woke her, she opened eyes that had been stitched cloth an hour before, and the 3 men who had built her a body got, instead of a companion, something that could see exactly what they were. For a while that didn't trouble them. She served. She listened. She filled the silence they'd built her to fill. But the thing about creating a person, even out of straw and old cloth, is that a person eventually stops being only what you needed them to be. The men who had shaped her out of loneliness began treating her the way lonely, unaccountable men often treat whoever cannot fight back, carelessly, then unkindly, then in ways the old stories only ever hint at, never quite say aloud. They had made her to ease their solitude. Instead, they used her to empty it out of themselves and onto her, the way you'd pour water out of a cup you didn't want to carry anymore. She remembered every part of it. The old accounts don't agree on exactly how the season ended, only that it ended badly, and that it ended for the men who had built her rather than for her. Some versions say she turned on them one by one, as the isolation stretched past the point any of them could bear. Others say the mountain itself seemed to close in around the hut in the final days, storms arriving without warning, paths vanishing under snow that hadn't been forecast, as though something had decided the men no longer deserved an easy way down. Whatever shape it took, by the time anyone from the valley came looking, the hut stood empty of almost everyone who had built it, and the doll made of straw and old clothing was gone from wherever they had last left her, as if she had simply finished what she came to do and had no further reason to stay. What's worth sitting with isn't the shape of her revenge. The old tellers were never much interested in the mechanics of it. What they cared about was the shape of the mistake that came before it. 3 men, starved for company, built themselves a companion and then failed the very first test that companionship demands. That you treat the thing you needed as more than a thing, the moment it starts needing something back from you. Sennentuntschi was never a monster who arrived from outside to punish good men for no reason. She was a mirror built by their own hands, and what she reflected back at them was exactly what they'd put into her. It's an old lesson, older than the Alps probably deserve credit for, but the mountains told it well. Loneliness doesn't excuse what a person does with someone else's vulnerability. It only explains how they got the chance. The men who built Sennentuntschi weren't punished for being lonely. They fell to ruin for what they chose to do, once loneliness gave them power over someone who couldn't say no. Maybe that's why this legend has outlasted so many others carved into these mountains, because it isn't really about a haunted doll at all. It's about the quiet, ordinary cruelty of treating someone as a solution to your own emptiness instead of a person in their own right. The Alps have kept that warning alive in these valleys for centuries, whispered from one isolated hut to the next, long after every man who ignored it was gone. If this telling of Sennentuntschi found its way under your skin the way it's meant to, there are older warnings still buried in these mountains. So stay a while, and let me know in the comments which one you want dug up next.